Episode 260, Exercise, Preparing for the Financial Crisis.
You're listening to the very best podcast in the world on health, wealth, and happiness. Please remember to leave a review and share with all your friends and family. And here is your host, Lars Hilser.
And welcome to Doom and Gloom Friday. Welcome to the very best podcast in the world, your only source in the universe for personal supremacy through health, wealth, and happiness. Now, why are we going through this episode? Well, before we get started, not financial advice whatsoever. Just my 2 cents. As a qualified financial advice. But anyhow, no, this is not financial advice. These are my 2 cents. And the reason I'm going into this episode is because I think any second grader can tell you that that we are going to go into a financial crisis, unless, of course, all of these overpaid knuckleheads at the central banks have figured out a solution. How it can work out that the European Union has a collective GDP of 14.7 billion, and we inject 5 billion into the market as pandemic relief measures, etc., etc., etc. I don't know how that can work out without fairy dust. Maybe they have invented fairy dust. No idea. Looking back at history, doom and gloom are upon us. Now, how's that, good for cheering you up for the weekend? I don't know. But, there are a few things that I wanted to go through briefly because I talked to a friend recently about, buying a house. And there was this interesting property on the market where, he could move in with his family, while renting out 4 other units that were in the same house. Now, these weren't big units, but keep in mind, my point was that, once we start to experience that this whole thing that we're running in right now is going to go bust, that it's good to have affordable housing to put the roof over people's heads who are going to be in a dire situation. And they don't have a lot of money, if at all. And so affordable housing is going to be one thing that's going to play a major role in the future. And one thing led to the other, and we got into interesting conversations. And so this episode is going to be about, how you can prep yourself, without the whole prepper issue, but, just, the 1 or 2 things you can do to kind of prepare yourself for the impending stuff. Now, impending stuff. Yeah, but you get the point. So right before we get into that, let's briefly do our housekeeping. Item number 1 today is going to be, yes, again, not financial advice. Item number 2, with the exception is that sharing is caring. Today, item number 2, meaning that please share our episodes far and wide. Reason being, if you don't share it, the people in your network are going to eventually fall victim to one of the wallet rapists out there. The wallet rapists are those motivational gurus who, give you the same stuff I'm giving you here, only that they charge shitloads of money to fuel their Bentley and their Lambo and, perhaps even their helicopter or whatever it is. And this podcast is truly altruistic. So my question to you is to please share the content far and wide through your respective social networks, because it does change lives. Item number 3, views herein are my own and will remain so. And yada yada blah, don't reflect anyone blah. Item number 3, remodeling mode still going on, not looking any better, and still going into the fall of, doing construction projects, how, that kind of ordeal, home improvement, blah. And in that sense, the episodes, or in that context, the episodes are going to be a bit shorter, a bit more concise. And there we go. Housekeeping over. Now, getting back to that conversation I had, it brought back a lot of memories of my grandmother who fled Prussia in World War II over the frozen Baltic Sea, and always would tell these horrific tales of, wagons and people breaking through the ice and, drowning in these very, very, very cold waters, and, shitloads of people dying there. And it was just gruesome. This was just their trail, from Prussia towards northern Germany over the frozen Baltic Sea. And, nor would my grandfather ever go into the tales of the actual war taking place. They did have very fond memories, of course, of the time, because they were ignoring away and, kind of peacifying what was going on. And, a lot of people were ignoring the truth that was going on, kind of similar to the times that we're in right now, only in a different context. But the psychological patterns here are insanely similar. Now, beside that, my grandmother went through at least 2, if not 3, currency reforms from the Reichsmark to the Deutschmark to the euro. And, she would always say, well, we get fucked over every single time. And nothing could be further from the truth. However, she also, was, at least my grandfather was born 1901. And, it was just interesting to hear his take on what was going on in Europe, about with the whole Great Depression being in the U.S., after the Spanish flu, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so it was just, very interesting to listen to them. Now, they survived so well because they were, a jack of 1,000 trades and a master of none, or, so whatever this saying is. I always forget the context. But they had a shitload of skill sets. And my grandfather, for instance, was in that times where there was no Instagram and such, was a photographer. And so, he would go to weddings, and take photographs, and to festivities and so on and so forth, right? That wasn't his primary job. That was his side hustle, right? So he could afford all the good things. However, it was really interesting during the war and, before and after. They would collect cigarette butts, from the posts that the Americans and the British were stationed at, because, of course, soldiers always have money for cigarettes, and the people didn't. So, it was from this collecting cigarette butts, opening them up and smoking the leftover tobacco that was in there, up to, opening up really a side hustle and taking pictures and photographs of festivities and weddings and baptisms and whatnot, that I was only able to realize how broad the skill set of this man was, and that was, kind of like a requirement, because you have to have a broad array of interests to be able to survive. Because let's face it, how secure is your job going to be in a situation like that? Nobody knows. The cards are being dealt all new, right? So it's about broadening your skill sets. And now's the time, while you still have unlimited and uninterrupted access to the internet, to touch up on your skill sets, learn how to do stuff, no matter how far it is, from your actual current job or, whatever situation you're in. Or for instance, do you have land around your house, no matter how much it is, and only if it's a few hundred square feet or square meters or whatever it is at the end of the day, do you know how to convert that into, something that you can grow vegetables in, or potatoes or onions, or, just enough food for you to be able to not necessarily survive, but also trade, right? What's the stuff that you can offer into the market, the basic skill sets, which everybody is going to be reliant upon? Do you know how to make apple juice? Do you know how to make apple vinegar? Do you know how to collect mushrooms, right, for food? Do you know how to make them last, right, without going to the supermarket and getting those juiced up things with all of the good preservatives and so on and so forth, right? Are you still capable to do that if shit hits the fan, right? I'm not saying that it will, right? Who am I? I'm not an economist, right? But at the end of the day, the signs are, weary. Let's put it that way. And again, everything could go well. And in that case, it doesn't really harm for you to be able to do stuff like that. And in that case, which I just mentioned, I don't know how it's going to work out with the internet and your access to it. Maybe it's about time you buy a book on, how to plant a vegetable garden, that you can harvest all year round, right? And touch up on those kind of skills rather than, binging Netflix over a series for a few nights. Just a little bit of an example. If you are in the position where you want to buy a house, in your position in life where you want to buy a house, maybe you want to think about, picking up a bit of more money, right? And making the example I mentioned in the introduction, a little bit of low budget housing available for people who are going to be in a less fortunate situation, right? Become a landlord in that sense, to rent out that extra space, that affordable housing to people who are going to be in need. Now, they're always going to be able to shell out a little bit of money, which is going to put you in an advantageous position to be able to have a residual income. If all goes well, that's not going to harm you, right? You can improve it. At the current interest rates, there's nothing that could possibly go wrong, right? Keep in mind, you're going to get fucked over when the next currency comes, or, when this system defaults and the same system comes in with a new label. You're going to be screwed over, but at the end, you're going to make it, right? Just because the whole house that you bought is going to finance itself, because you've got 2 apartments in there, which are just going to pay all of your living costs, essentially. And the main thing, however, is to really be prepared. And the main thing I want you, and I would like you to do, is to go and talk to the old folks, those who are still around, who went, the pre-war people who are still around. They're very few, I know, but it's about talking to them and, maybe talking to your grandparents from the tales and, getting the tales from their parents, which are going to be in their minds, deeply engraved, because what happened there was really, really, really horrific. And, then look, put together a list of what you want to do. And I don't know how much, time is left, if something is going to happen at all. I don't know. Again, fairy dust could have been invented by now. Maybe it passed me by. But it's about really getting, to kind of put a summary under it. It's about broadening your skill set, making yourself, really an important asset to the community that's going to be very reliant, and broadening that skill set. If you're in a position to buy a piece of real estate, make sure it's a bit bigger so that you can rent out extra room. And, again, talk to the old folks. They're going to be able to give you those colorful tales, which are usually bloody red. But at the end of the day, it's about prepping for whatever may come in the future. So in that sense, I was able to take away a little bit of that doom and gloom from your weekend and give you an opportunity to kind of write down the skills that, you may have always been wanting to learn. And now's the time. when, if not now, then when. So in that sense, have a nice weekend. Have a good piece of learning. Have a good, no, not good piece of learning, a good learning curve with your skill sets and so on and so forth. If you have questions, as always, please email theverybestpodcastintheworld@gmail.com. And make sure to share this episode far and wide, because I think this is going to be something a lot of people need to at least wrap their head around and have heard of. And, depending on how able they are, they're going to also make sure to broaden their skill set and, learn from others. So in that sense, have a nice weekend. We're going to be back on Monday. See you soon, folks. Bye-bye.